Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Wet Boots Podcast. My name is Leo. This is a show where I talk to people who are or have been in the military, and I got a chance to hear their military story. Today, we have a special guest. We have fellow podcaster and friend Benjamin Lake from Benny and the Guest. What's up, Benjamin?
Leo, thanks for having me on, man. This is a pleasure. I
Hey,
always
man,
talk to
we've
you.
been trying to get this, and we've been trying to make it happen for a good couple
Yes.
months, man.
Yes.
But tell me how you're a fellow podcaster just like me. You have other guests on as well. Tell me how the journey has been for you.
It's been, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on. This is such an honor. For the guest, I think it's a slow climb up a hill, and it's a hard hill because you start with, okay, who am I going to interview? I think I have a couple people I want to talk to in my circle, and that kind of goes away real quick. And then for me, I had to figure out, okay, who's interesting to talk to. I had to find my friends, and then you start getting into the game of it a little bit and figuring out, okay, this is how you get guests. This is, and it's a grind, man. You got to ask and ask and ask. Thankfully enough, you were on my podcast early on, actually, and people like that, I think, are very supportive in helping each other. Iron sharpens iron, stuff like that. But each day it gets a little easier, a little better, and you kind of build on that success.
And we were talking about supporting each other, and I always repost your shit, you always repost my shit, and it's a great back and forth. But sometimes people are not people who you think might be supportive of you are not that supportive. And we were talking about that earlier about how we approached it when we were both starting. We kind of approached it two different ways because I approached it and like when I was first starting out, I approached it and it's like telling people about it, telling people at work if they want to come on. And I felt a certain cringe about it. And you did the exact opposite. You were like, I'm not telling anybody I work with about this.
Yeah, that's probably my inner anxiety a little bit and depression, but like as a drill sergeant, first of all, I started it idiotically in the middle of being a drill sergeant. So number one, I'm not talking about social media too much at work. And then when I get done with that, I'm transitioning, I'm moving to a different unit, and I get here and I don't know anybody. So I don't feel comfortable having those discussions necessarily. I'm getting better about it, to be open, and I find a lot of positivity behind it typically, but it's very hard for me to come out to people and be like, check out me talking for an hour or two to people you've
It's
never
really
heard of.
hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. We'll get into the drill sergeant part about it here in a sec, but it's really hard because, at least for me, I felt like I said, I felt like a cringe about it. I felt like, oh, people would look at me and be like, oh, you have a podcast, you fucking loser. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And oddly enough, at least with the Instagram analytics and all that stuff, most of my following or likes or views come from non-followers, and it's like, oh shit, I thought my homies were there, you know.
Yeah, it's that's the weird part. I think it's kind of like having a kid where a lot of people tell you they're there for you once you have that kid, and then it falls off real quick once you have one. The content speaks for itself, hopefully.
Yeah.
If it's shit, it's shit, and if it's not, it's not. Yeah, I find that very hard, but I also love that I love the aspect of non-followers finding it. I love.
Yeah, there's something special about it. Like you feel, I mean, at least I do for a little bit. I feel like, oh man, like non-followers are like watching this, liking it, commenting on it, because you feel a little bit of like, oh man, I thought the people who were following me would like it, would like your friends and family are following you on your page and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, I thought I'd get a little bit more support in that. But then that gets overwhelmed by all this support that you get from people who just found your page. And then it's been like that for me where people at work tell me like, oh, I found I just came across your reel. Like, what the fuck? Or somebody comments on it and like, hey, I didn't know I was going to randomly come across your page. Just random interactions of people that you really lost touch with. But being in the army and being a drill sergeant on that part, it must be really hard. It must be really hard to bridge the gap between podcasting and talking to people and on the grander scheme of things, networking. Take us back to your origins, right? Tell us the origin story. Tell us where it really all started, why you joined the army, and why the army specifically.
Yeah, so I'm from a really small town in Missouri, raised on a farm. It was like a weird farm kind of. I always had I kind of grew up in that generation of go to college. Like that's how you become better than your predecessors, which my family, my dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, very supportive and stuff, but they wanted a better life for me. So in my mind, going to college would fix all of that. And it obviously did because I flunked out my first year. So I went and I worked for, I guess, 3 years. 3 years in work industry, various jobs, and I noticed you start becoming the person you hate. You go, I eventually moved back to my hometown even, and I started realizing, I'm becoming that guy that's stuck in the hometown that's never going to make something of himself. And I know I'm better than this. What options are there? And I had two friends. One was Navy, one was Army. And I was like, I see them doing better than where they came from, and they came from worse spots than me. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll sign up. So I go. I got a really good contract actually to be a cryptological linguist, and it was great. And I learned you got to have a clearance for that. And to get a clearance, you have to have a certain credit score. Well, mine was about three.
Really?
Yeah, mine was 300. I had a lot of really bad shit on there, like collections and stuff. So
Yeah.
I was like, they were like, we can't give you this. You're not going to pass clearance. Here's your jobs. And they gave me like, combat arms, artillery, and there were two other ones. There was watercraft operator and Seaburn.
What's a
And
watercraft operator?
good question. Like an idiot, I didn't pick it, so I can't tell you much about it. But I've learned it's a very good job. You basically either work on the boats. There's actually Army boats that we have. You do that kind of stuff, or you can operate our smaller vessels that work with the engineers and stuff. Little things like that. It's a very good job. I did not pick that though. I picked Seaburn,
Oh
which
shit.
if you're in the Army, it's not a sexy job.
Shout
And
out to all the Seaburn people.
shout out to all the Seaburn people. There's about 3,000 of us whole in the Army. It's a lot of paperwork if you're not involved. Anyway, I go to that. It's base AIT in Fort Leonard Wood. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I could tell that they're showing you kind of how to build a schedule, what right looks like and stuff, and I enjoyed that aspect of the Army. So I go
With
to oh
with
sorry.
that being said, you had so you said you had two people who you were friends with, one Navy and one Army. You could have picked from any of the branches. What made you choose Army?
Oh, the Navy guy, he was stationed in Japan his entire time for 4 or 5 years. Traveled a lot and saw the world, but he was never home. And I'm very family oriented. I have a brother and sister that my sister has a big family. I enjoy being around my family a lot. My buddy was in the Army. He was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood for his first duty station and then in Texas. And I was like, well, shit, if I can get that, I can, stay around here. And actually, that's kind of leads into at the end of AIT, I get, you get your orders to where you're going to go. I get JBLM, which is in Washington State, which for those of you that don't know, it's the furthest Oconus duty station I could have gotten. And I was like, oh my God. So that was my first pit. Yeah. So that to answer your question, yeah, I guess I thought that Marines never really vibed with me. They're very gung ho and stuff, but it wasn't for me. And then hindsight, I should have looked at Air Force, but I had relatives, not direct, but a lot, all of my influences in military were mostly Army.
Oh, so you joined the Army mainly because you wanted the family aspect of it. You saw somebody in the Navy and you're like, yeah, it's too far away from home. The
Yeah.
the chances of you getting stationed too far away from home were too great for the Navy, and so you went Army, and then you got stationed in
Yeah.
JBLM, and then
Yes.
so you were in JBLM as a chemical core
Yeah.
guy. I don't know what the right
There,
thing
there-
is.
there's a billion ways to say it. It's Seaburn, Chem,
Yeah.
whatever. The old guys call it NBC. There's so
Fuck,
many.
I'm old. Shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
I go up there and it's a chemical battalion actually. It's a tenant unit, which if you don't know, there's the division usually that runs a base. We don't fall under them. We fell under something else. I get up there. First of all, it's beautiful. I never seen a mountain before and flying into that was amazing. Get there. I was telling you, I immediately went to the field and wore mop gear for 6 hours every day and um, sweated out probably 12 pounds and um, I loved it. I truly did love that first unit. It was a lot of I talked to somebody about this. I think everyone, whatever MOS you have, I wish you would go to a basically a line unit for whatever job you have. I think it's so great to have an NCOs like, sergeant, staff sergeants, and sergeant first classes above you, teaching you, and then you actually doing your job as opposed to just sitting in an office or whatever. So I loved it.
Sitting in an office is not for a lot of people. It is for me. Loved it. Loved it. So after JBLM, you love JBLM. Where did you go after that?
So at that point, I was married. I actually got married as I reenlisted, got married, and we had a child on the way. And I got orders for I reenlisted for airborne school and Italy, and
Oh shit.
I was so excited. And I go to airborne school and I do the 41 club. So I come, yeah, yeah, they got my ass.
Ah.
Yes, yes, I'm that weak body that no one's everybody hears about, but nobody sees. Yeah,
Nobody admits to it.
I got 38 the first time and 41 the second time.
Stop.
I was in. You're talking about low points with wet boots, man. That was one of the lowest points in my life. I was so mad. There were two jump masters in my company that I looked up to highly, and to come back to that, and then my wife, telling her, which she really didn't want me to do it anyway, but that was a major, major low point in my life. I was
I
so,
should not laugh at that. I'm so sorry.
no, it's okay. I laugh at it now. It's funny.
Fuck. I'm
Um,
so sorry. I shouldn't laugh at that.
well, here's the issue is you get done with that, what happens, if you reenlist for something, you fail the school,
You're at
it's
needs of the army.
needs of the army. So at that point, there was no marketplace or anything, and I'm a sergeant, and I call branch, and I'm like, hey, I don't want to go to Korea. Because for us,
That's their
Korea is
the
the
army's
default.
problem for anything. It's the
Yes.
default. Go to Korea.
Yes. And I'm like,
Shit.
please, I have a newborn. I really don't want to do that. Can we work something out? And they're like, we'll let you know. And then 2 days later, I came on orders to Kuwait, which, yeah,
It's not Korea.
no, it's not Korea, but it's the same. It's kind of worse because Korea, you can do a unrestricted tour if you get the command sponsorship, and I could have taken my wife. Kuwait, you can't. It's a
Mhm.
1 year restricted tour only. So and then to make it worse, I got orders. I'm like 4 months out, right? I get that, and then the orders change a week later, and it says Qatar. I'm like, where the fuck is Qatar at? I don't mean to cuss.
No, you're fine.
Qatar.
You can definitely go here.
Okay, Qatar, and I'm like, where is Qatar? And so I look on a map, and it's like right below Kuwait, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and I hear it's cool. And then a month out, I get told, hey, we're permanently forward as the network for Afghanistan. You're going there for your whole time. So that's where I went.
How long were you at Qatar?
I went to Kuwait for 3 days to end process, go to Qatar for like a week, maybe, and then on a bird. You
To
know how it is
where?
to Afghanistan, to Bagram.
Oh
To,
fuck! You were stationed in Bagram.
so I was not technically, if you want to get technical about it, I was stationed in Qatar on deployment orders for the entire year to Afghanistan.
Fuck that.
So
Oh my
yeah.
god. But
So
this was when
hindsight,
Bagram was big, though.
Bagram was really big. This is 2018. So
Okay, so well,
it was, well, that's the problem. You're hitting the point of the drawdown.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was on Disney. I think it's Disney side where the brass is at and everything.
That's wild
And
that they call it the Disney side.
yeah, I don't know. And it wasn't for Disney. I always thought that was a sick joke they made of calling it Disney in Afghanistan. It's because of a private, I think, that died there
Oh
early on in the
fuck.
war. They
Yeah.
named it after him.
Okay.
Um, but those that know Afghanistan, there's Warrior side and Disney side, and the guys that did shit mostly were on Warrior side, or a couple of them were on Disney. But I was right by the brass, so that was not a great time.
Fuck
And
that.
my wife was pregnant, about 3 months pregnant when I left.
So when you got back, you had you already had a child waiting for you.
Yeah, I got R&R
Hmm.
for that. I saw her for 10 days after she was born, and then I went right back to Afghanistan. And then I had TDY en route twice, out process, and I fly from Qatar to Fort Benning. I go to airborne school again.
Oh
'Cause-
shit! You get another shot at it.
Yeah, so I did a drug deal with HRC. They were like, "We'll send you again." I had to get a bunch of it's a whole thing. I had to get a bunch of memos and all this stuff. They sent me again to airborne school, and I was on orders to 10th group, and I was like, but I'm coming out of a deployment, so I'm in great shape, pass no problem this time, do my jump stuff. But then I'm also TDY en route to ALC, so I go right from Benning
To
to
ALC.
ALC in Fort Leonard Wood. I go there. So really, I'm gone from my family for like 15 months.
Yeah.
And I finally I moved my wife early to Colorado and I get there and that's where I did that was my next duty station.
Were you able to finally fly your family out to Colorado?
Yeah, they were waiting for me actually. So
Oh, okay.
I did my time in Leonard Wood and they were waiting in Colorado. My wife already hooked up a house for us out there and I had been signing all the documents for buying it and
Mhm.
stuff. And it was great. It was arriving to a home with my two children and stuff. It was awesome.
So when you finally get to Colorado, is that when you went to drill sergeant school?
I did a year with group and it was COVID though. This is 2020.
Okay.
So I did 3 months of badass training and then COVID hit and then I got drill orders 6 months of being there. And
So this was like 2020. So this was kind of when the Army was like seeing the recession of um, candidates coming in.
yeah, I mean it was especially with COVID and stuff. It was a drawdown at first and then I get to drill at March or April of 21 and it was full capacity then. They were running full classes and it was summer surge, so obviously it picks up. But for about 6 to 8 months, I had full classes nonstop.
Really? How long were you a drill for?
3 years.
God damn. So I mean, in a sense, you just got off drill duty in
Yeah,
2023.
our mutual friend, 2024, our mutual friend Tech,
Oh
Era
yeah.
Tech, he was telling me how, you think you're off the trail because I've been off it for a year now. And he was like, no, it takes a lot longer than that to really get rid of all that stuff going on.
So let's go back to the drill sergeant. Let's park there
Sure.
for a quick sec. So
Sure.
when did you come in?
2015?
2015. So how different was basic training from 2015? Like what were the obvious differences that you saw from when you came in to being a drill sergeant?
So, for clarity, I was an AIT drill sergeant, which most people will roll their eyes at because it's different.
How's it different?
So with AIT, you're not teaching them well, that's not true because I did that, but basic is a more structured and it's initial and it's you every day teaching the soldiers stuff.
Yeah.
AIT, you receive the soldiers, you're teaching them stuff on the side. You have to reinforce a lot of shit. You're fixing issues that nobody else fixed in basic, but you're also taking them to class every day.
So I didn't have drill sergeants when I went to AIT. I was in AIT in 2013. So we didn't have any drill sergeants. We just had a platoon sergeant who would march us to our class every day. And then that was it, right? As a drill sergeant in AIT, what did the normal day to day look like for you?
so I lived an hour away from post. So
Why?
because I got because
Oh my God.
I got 5 acres with a house and a barn and a garage.
That's
For
why.
it was very very cheap, and it was in my hometown actually. So I loved it. That was the greatest part of being a drill. But wake up about 2:45. Leave my house around 3:10. I had it down to a science. Get there around 4:15. Wait, make sure everybody's awake. March privates, do PT. Get done with PT. You got about 45 minutes to shit, shower, shave, and eat your breakfast if you can get some.
So
And
are you while you're eating breakfast, are you also like you're eating breakfast before the trainees, right?
no, 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 never.
You're eating the breakfast with the trainees?
No, 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 brother.
Uh,
You gotta eat it after because you can't eat with the privates.
So you're
So
okay, so you're marching
My
in.
AIT was strict. I don't know what the deal is, but for Seaburn, they kept it very rigid. And I had some drill sergeants that taught me the way. And while they were rough at times, they definitely instilled a thing in me of like we're still a drill sergeant. We're still teaching these soldiers. You're an NCO, so you're always letting the privates eat first, right? You march them in, they eat, you're making sure you're not, it's not like when we went through when it was like 10 minutes, get out. It's
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking. So that's what I'm asking in terms of like a drill sergeant. Like you got 45 minutes to shit, shower, shave, and then march the privates to breakfast
minutes.
to the defect, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking like when you say that, I'm thinking that you're going in, 45 minutes, shit, shower, shave, and eat probably your fucking
You
breakfast in the
are.
car.
So you are. So
Okay.
so with the privates, I would march them down, or sometimes flip flop, but either way, typically march them straight to the defect after PT. They eat. One of the drills at the end would grab a bunch of to-go plates,
Hmm.
or we would grab them, or whatever. You tell the privates, hey, 30 minutes be at the marching point. You're running back with the other drill because it was 2 drills per class, and you both eat your fucking breakfast, change out, shower, or whatever, and one of you is marching them. The other drill is starting paperwork for the day, be
What
it
paperwork do you guys have to get done?
so
Because this is all behind the scenes stuff, right? Like
right.
I never had drill sergeants in AIT. It was
Yeah,
all just
I
basic
didn't either.
training. So it was a weird kind of like hearing you say, like, I've heard of drill sergeants in AIT, and I'm
Yeah,
thinking they just march them to breakfast, do PT with them, march them to breakfast, and then same thing that our platoon sergeants did, right? March them to
yeah.
breakfast, PT, then to class, and then that was it. But what kind of paperwork do you guys have to do?
So we're doing like test scores. They have to be inputted in a DTMS, right? This is like the weed shit that nobody wants to hear about, but it's terrible.
Like
Your
the PT
input
scores and shit like that?
PT scores. What do they call that? Citizenship. You're making sure citizenship flows through all that paperwork. You're
Oh.
emailing constantly. Reserve guys, if they're not getting paid, a lot of them don't get paid in AIT because they might have been a holdover. So then their paycheck stopped. So now you got to fix that. There was a lot of random stuff, a lot of counselings, a lot of the test scores, like I said, were a huge pain in the ass because you got to look up each soldier, and it's 120 soldiers, and you can't do a you can't really do a mass influx of the test scores. So there's a lot of sitting behind a desk. The person that marched with them, they're going there, and typically they're marching them to trans, go on trans, sit with the class, take them to chow, wait at class again, and then come back. While they're sitting there, they're making sure none of the privates are doing dumb shit. They're putting in test scores as well, or writing up counselings. A lot of times, one drill would be responsible for counselings, one drill would be responsible for test scores and stuff.
So you guys split up the work pretty evenly.
You try to split it up. When we had just 2 drills, it's a lot of work to do by yourself with just 2 people because everybody's got appointments too. You're not, and you kind of put those on the back burner. But like,
Oh, the drills have appointments.
right, yeah. Well,
Okay.
the soldiers do too. So if we get a call, like the soldiers have appointments all day. So like sick call, you got to go pick up the kids from sick call and take them to class. You got they have a MRI or some bullshit. They have citizenship interview. They have
Fuck.
so all that stuff. So you're running around in a van. There used to be a drill for that, but it was hit or miss because some people are fucking lazy, and you would have to be running around in a van. You would hate it because you'd get the van at 9 in the morning. You would not be out of that thing until 14, 1500. So you're just driving around nonstop, picking up new kids,
Fuck.
dropping them off.
Fuck
And
that.
then when you get back from class and stuff, both the drills are paired up now, and you take them to chow. You come back, you brief what the next day is going to be, and then you go. Then, like an idiot, you say, "Any questions?" And they all have questions. They all have issues. I mean, I had soldiers getting married. I had soldiers their wives were pregnant. I mean, the list of issues goes on and on and on.
So now we're gonna park here for a quick second because I got two questions. One, in your time as a drill sergeant with all the issues and all this stuff, what was the what was at least the issue? Not a counseling, but what was the main issue that you were like a huge face palm issue that you were like, really? This is happening to me right now? Or like I gotta fix this right now?
There's a soldier that comes to mind. I hate this guy. He got chaptered out, thank God. But the worst one that ever came to mind was a drill by myself for a day with a whole class, and I needed them to get haircuts and drop uniforms off for graduation. This is like 3 weeks, or this is early on, but you do it early, right? I'm doing a round robin of I take 15 soldiers in the van, I run them over to clothing and sales. Then I pick up another batch, run them over to haircuts. So then I start doing rotations of I pick up them, move them here. And
It's a round robin of shit,
right,
picking
round
people
robin.
up. Yeah.
So I'm doing this. One of the soldiers goes into leisure and travel. This clown asked the lady to book him a flight to it's a strip club in Florida. He asks her, he puts in the name and she looks it up and she goes, "What is wrong with you?" And he's like, "I'm just looking to have a good time." So and then I go to pick them
That
up.
can't be. That can't be real.
That's honest. It's that guy did so many dumb things. Like,
So this guy went to get a haircut, drop his
oh,
uniform, whatever it was,
yes,
and then he went to the MWR and said, "I want a plane ticket to the strip club named Beef in Florida." And
yeah.
then the
He
lady's
didn't say
like,
strip club. He just said I wanted a ticket here to Magic City.
"Yeah,
And the lady looked it up, and sure as shit, it popped up. I briefed all of them. I said, "Stay in line. Do not leave this. I will fucking lose it." I get back there. Yeah, I get back there. This lady's crying. The MWR lady came out crying to me, and
why
is like,
crying?"
"I don't." She's like, "I just don't understand why someone would do this." I'm like, "Whatever." And I told him, I'm like, he's trying to justify it. I'm like, "Shut the hell up." So,
Wait. How was he trying to justify it?
oh, he said he was trying to go to an Orlando Magic game. That's what he
Oh,
said.
right.
Right. And I write the counseling, and that started a whole thing with him. But that was one of my worst endeavors of facepalm private of like, why even?
Privates do the best things and the worst things. When I was a private, I once asked, and I was an AIT, and we were having to do our the 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 block leave, right?
Yeah.
And I told my platoon sergeant, I was like, "Hey, I got a quick question. What are the requirements to go to Mexico?" He's like, "Why are you trying to go to Mexico?" And he's like, "Are you going to get in trouble?" And I was like, "Probably not. I'm an AIT. I don't want to get in trouble." And he's like, "Don't get in trouble. Nobody's going to know." And I'm like, "Say less. What the fuck?" And he straight up was like, "As long as you don't get arrested, you're fine." And I was like, "Say less.
Yeah.
Gotcha." But on that note of like of goofy fucking on that note of like goofy privates, what is the dumbest counseling you had to write in your time as a drill sergeant?
I can't remember the dumbest one, but I can remember the dumbest ones we did. At
What were
one
they?
in my first cycle, I wrote one, but it was like two. We gave out 160 counselings in one day. There was two classes. I think it was two classes or something, and none of them got haircuts over the weekend, and none of them shaved in the morning. It was like three actually. Now that I haven't thought about this stuff in so long. There was it was haircuts, shaving, and something else. Um, and it was like three counselings we printed out in mass. It was like 160, and it was like, okay, if you didn't do this, step over here. If you didn't do this, step right here. If you didn't do this, step right here.
So it was like three different things that
Right. So
that it
so
was like
the
three different things that the whole like 160 people didn't do.
yes, and we just handed them out in mass, and then it was like we did the haircuts first, right? And then it was like if you didn't shave, move over here. The rest of you go away, and it just kept going down the line.
Jesus.
It was a lot of counselings.
In your time of being a drill sergeant, and I ask this because being an AIT is a time of love, it's a time of passion, right? Being in as a drill sergeant in AIT, where 20 something year olds, 18-year olds get their first taste of freedom. Did you ever catch any of them having premarital relations, for lack of a better word, anywhere?
Yeah, I actually hate one of the soldiers that did it. Oh no, like you mean me walking in on him and stuff? No,
No, like not walking in, but like, well, sure, walking in,
not.
or just like, hey, you guys need to stop this shit.
Oh, dude, there was one in particular. I believe it was my second class. Um, this guy was an MOST, which for those who don't know, it's a transfer
MLS
or it's a
transfer.
prior. He was a prior service. He was Navy before, and he was 32, I think, and had a wife and kids and everything. And we had known he'd been flirting with this female that was like 19, and she was a regular Joe. And we specifically tell the MOSTs, like, do not fraternize with them. Like, obviously, on graduation day, the wife of that guy, I guess she hacked his phone and sent screenshots to us of he is at this location, blah, blah, blah. And we found, and then, our first sergeant, we brought it up to him, and he said, we don't really we can't really do anything with this. This is hearsay. And I'm like, first sergeant, we can't even let, like, what are you talking about? Like, we got to do something. My first sergeant was very rough then. I really didn't get along with him, but I'm a big arguer of first sergeants. So I got in a very heated argument, and then we were there till probably midnight. We brought the two soldiers in. I berated the dog shit out of them. I berated the shit out of them, not only because fraternization, more because I was like, you're married with kids, you piece of shit. Like, what is wrong
Yeah.
with you? We caught that. There was a couple other random ones, not too many, but the ones that happen stick with you, and it's a sad sight to see.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine this guy just lost everything, obviously.
I hope so. I really hope so.
What I mean, because when I went through AIT, there's a guy and a girl that met in AIT. I think shout out to Staff Sergeant Tony, wherever you are, you bald fuck. I hope you're still alive. I just remember it was a short bald dude, Staff Sergeant Tony, and he's like, "Listen, I don't care what you guys do. If I don't get a phone call, it's a good day." And we're like, "Cool." And then to follow that up, he's like, "Don't get fucking married. Just it's too much paperwork. Don't get fucking married." And we're like, "Cool." Sure enough, he caught a girl and a guy doing it in the laundry room, and then those two ended up getting married before the fuck. It was such a shit show for him. Like they met in AIT, and then they got married, and then there was like a couple more couples, and it was just. That's why I say it's a time of love. It's a time of passion. Like everybody just meets their soulmate in AIT.
Of course, and that is obviously where you would meet your soulmate, is in this confined 10-week period or whatever you got.
Yeah. Of course it would be. During your time as a drill sergeant, does it any other moments that really stand out to you, good or bad?
Yeah, you learn your peers are not equal. You learn just because you have a drill sergeant badge, you should respect a person because of who they are as a person, not because they have a badge.
Can you expand on that? Because I'm
Yeah,
going to clip this,
100%.
but can you expand on that?
Yeah, I had a drill that was 4 hours late. Let me break the day down, okay? We we get to the privates at 4 a.m. We get there at 4 a.m. Start clearing rooms on graduation day. You clear all the rooms. You make sure everybody's dressed right. You go get chow, and then you practice graduation until graduation, which is pretty much how everybody does it. This other drill did not show up till 8 p.m., which is 1 hour before graduation. No call, no nothing, anything until 8 o'clock. And he calls me and he goes, "Sorry, man." I'm like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm a piece of shit." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit, man. What the fuck?" And then we learn later on he was always late to stuff or didn't show up to PT, and it is hard to show up to PT at 4:30, but it was constant with this guy.
Yeah.
And then we found out he also told a lot of the other cadre that he purposely either didn't show up on time or he would say he forgot his boots or something and had to go home to get out of stuff. So
Oh,
that really stuck with me. It makes me really upset.
that rank might change, but that sham shield is still there, man.
100%. Yeah.
That sham shield is still there.
There's so many. There was a drill when I left that he didn't know any better, and one of the privates asked for, this is like the first week of AIT.
Okay.
This soldier asked for a 3-day pass to go see his wife at the Lake of the Ozark, which is like an hour away, way outside of our circle. And not even that, like we don't give passes like that. We never give off post passes anymore.
Oh, okay.
So the private asked that, and the drills goes, "Sure, I'll sign it." So the only signed paperwork was a leave request or 4-day pass or a 3-day pass or whatever. Drill signed it. Kid goes, comes back. He has a warrant out for his arrest.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
For what?
I don't know. It was from his home state because at the
Oh,
gate they pull all that.
so this kid probably went to his home state.
No, this kid probably had a warrant out before he joined the army, and he joined the army thinking he'd get away with it.
Oh, okay, okay.
That happens a lot more than people think. A lot of people run away from crimes. I've seen so many soldiers arrested in AIT because by then the warrant comes through.
We're gonna
And
park here for a quick second because what the fuck?
yeah,
Because and I say this because I've only met one person who said his words, who said, the judge said it's either jail or the army. And I'm like, what the fuck you do? And he's like, I'd rather not talk about it. And I'm like, I respect that. But I've never seen anybody get arrested in the army. Like, okay, walk me. You said there were so many. Walk me through that. At least the first one.
Yeah, I mean, they're out front of the barracks. I remember I would be leaving for trans or chow or whatever, and you see a private. He was in the first sergeant's office or whatever, and there's an MP in there, and they just come out in handcuffs, get in the back of the squad car, and you're like, "What the hell happened?" They're like, "They had a warrant out for their arrest in their home state, and it doesn't." I guess it doesn't crosstalk when there's a warrant out on states.
On
It
the
takes a
civilian
while.
side to the military side.
Well, because I guess eventually, if they don't see you for a while or they find out you're gone, they got to put it national. And
Okay.
I think that takes a while. So it's just so funny to see, because you're like, what did you think was going to happen? It would just magically go away or what?
I would assume they think it's just two different systems, and they're like, oh, the two systems aren't talking to each other, and they're just like, oh, it'll go away. It won't affect me. But now the worst part is, well, I don't know. I'm just assuming that the worst part is you are prosecuted on the civilian side, but now you have UCMJ on top of it, right?
I don't know. That's a good question. I never really heard much more about that. They pretty much chapter you out. I'm sure it's an article. You got to obviously have an Article 15
Of
to
course, yeah.
chapter, but I don't really know the extent of it because at that point it's at the brigade. Like usually it's higher levels taking
Yeah.
care of all of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's fucking. So did you at some point just become desensitized to privates getting arrested at some point?
Yeah, you get of all the stuff of the chapter. I mean, I've chaptered out some bad dudes that should never have been joined up, and I think you learn it's part of the game of the army has a mission. They want to get numbers, and I think you know this too. The army doesn't attract necessarily, especially for enlisted. You're not attracting Ivy League geniuses here. You're attracting people at their like what I said. I was at my last limits. You know, a lot of people are like that. They're trying to figure their life out. Well, some of these guys are already in the trenches. They join. They go, "This ain't for me," and then they act a fool.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot of optimism, and I lost that a lot.
With being a drill.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, and this is no offense or with offense, I don't care. With offense to anybody coming into the army. Like the army really doesn't standards have gotten so low to come in. And that's a fight that they've been battling for a long fucking time. And a good example is that one example is the whole dropping a bunch of drugs from the MEP stations, right? Like drug requirements. Like you have to be completely clean. When we came in, you couldn't have shit if you told your recruiter like I smoked weed last week or something like that. They'd give you a gallon of water and be like, chug this before we get there. And it's like a fucking 2-minute drive and you're like, fuck, right? Or something like that, right? If you're like, if you're like, I got flat feet, whatever the fuck, they're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You're fine, whatever the fuck it is. But now, like a couple of years ago, the army did a whole fucking fat camp. A literal, I don't know what it's called. I'm just going to call it a fat camp, but it's like a pre-basic training to basic training
We had
because
those.
candidates were too fat.
Hmm.
And on top of that, they were like, "Oh, you smoked weed? Like, we'll drop that." I might be getting this wrong. It doesn't matter.
No,
I
dude,
don't care.
you're
But
100% correct, and I would even add on to that. I think a lot of people don't know, and they should. Um, they were waiving people who had previously tried to kill themselves. So we would get soldiers that you pick them up from the ones that don't come from Leonard Wood, right? Leonard Wood, we just get the BCTs, they hand them over real quick. The other ones, you got to go through their packet. Well, they have this thing called a military moment of truth where you have to state what happened to you in your life and you won't I think you don't get in trouble for it or something.
oh,
But a lot of them marked, I've previously tried to hurt myself. And you're like, that would never fly when I joined. Like,
no, they're just bringing in numbers is what they're mainly worried about. And with being a drill and all this stuff, but well, I'm assuming being a drill kind of like opened your eyes to the army and the future of the army, which is what matters the most, right? Because you're on your way to building your career, but we're getting pushed out, right? Which is fine. You know, The leaders, the specialists and sergeants of yesterday are going to be the sergeant majors tomorrow, which is completely fine. But point is, like, when you start going through the process of like seeing the future of the Army and seeing like that, does it concern you at all of where the Army's going?
Yeah, I think it's really hard when it's your MOS because then you see everyone you're going to work with and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't want shitbags in my formation. And I don't want, especially my job, Seaburn already gets enough trash talk to it, right? For what it is, because it's a what if
No
job.
offense, but it does. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I've fully accepted that and I found other ways to make myself purposeful. But the job itself is a what if job, which is hard to sell. You have to make yourself an entity in your unit. These soldiers don't see that. The ones that are joining, a lot of them are joining because of benefits or they just want the paycheck. And
Yeah.
I get that, but that's not what we're going for here, especially early on in your career.
You got to play the game.
Sure.
That's the biggest, for me, that's the biggest thing. I've had plenty of soldiers that come in just for the paycheck, just for the benefits. They want, and I've had plenty of soldiers that come in like I just want to pay my college dues. I'm like, great. And I've had plenty of soldiers that come in, and I'm not saying you were like this, but like you that have a couple years in the civilian world, like a couple of years of being an adult, and then they come into the Army, and then they expect that same treatment of being an adult. Like, I'm sorry, but I still have to tell you to shave your fucking face and shit like that. And I still
Yes.
got to tell you to clean the bathrooms and random shit like that. It's hard because you realize this person was an adult, but if they don't act like an adult, then you gotta play the stupid games, and you gotta and I've had so many conversations where I'm like, listen, man, you just gotta play the game. Like that's really all it is. You can choose to not play the game, but you're gonna make your life fucking harder for that. And if you want to make your life harder for that, that's fine. You can be the guy who's like, hey, this is wrong for this and this and this reason, which is fine. Totally respect it. I'll back you up 100%, but you better make sure you're right.
Yes.
Because if you
I
leave any wiggle room, you're fucked.
yes. 100%. I think people underestimate the fact that you signed a volunteer contract for a giant set of parameters you have to follow that you don't understand until you're in, and you got to work your way through that.
Yeah. And yeah, you got to work your way through that. You got to just play the game. Just wherever you're at, just play the fucking game. Make your voice heard. Hey, sir, ma'am, we should do it this way. Oh, no, we're doing this way. And okay, cool. You can make your argument as much as you want. But at the end of the day, that commander is going to do whatever the fuck they want. And you just got to let them eat that fucking shit. You just got to let them eat that dick and then just move on with your life. Because in reality, I
No,
mean,
I get it.
I use this phrase a lot since I heard it, and it's so fucking true. Because in the Army, you gotta learn to eat shit, and you gotta learn
Yes.
to love the taste of it.
Yes. You
And that's
have
what a
to.
lot of people don't understand.
Yeah. I jump back in, Leo? I got to take
Yeah,
a just a second. I'll be right back.
yeah, of course. Oh,
Sorry, man. I had to piss like a
you said
racehorse.
what?
I had to piss like a racehorse. I was dying.
You took a fast piss than me. You took a faster piss than me.
Yeah.
So we'll come on. I'll raise both my hands or I'll just snap. But we'll
Yeah.
go back to like I'll just call it out. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for sticking up. Ugh. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. We just had to take a quick break, but we were talking about the ins and outs of being a drill sergeant with Benjamin Lake from Benny and the Guests. And we were having a riveting conversation, but we just had to take a quick break. Benjamin Lake. So we were talking about being a drill sergeant and all the ins and outs that come with it. So after doing all the comparisons and all the bullshit that you had to go through, right? What was your life looking like after being a drill sergeant?
That's a good question. So oh man, I my first 2 years were pretty primordial. I was neglecting my family. I was angry. I was tired mostly. I was getting about, I had a watch at that point, and I was getting on average 4 to 3 hours of sleep every night. And I never realized, you think when you're younger, you can push through all of it. And I was 28, 29, and you're like, oh, I'm not that kid anymore. I'm not that guy. My third year, it kind of leveled out to where I could focus on my family more. I got to go to SLC during that time, and um, I went to a holdover company my last 6 months. So I kind of phased out really nice.
Down from the drill sergeant life before
Yeah, it was. I
BCS.
mean, it's so much, and to do holdover stuff is not bad. And it was, you got days off and stuff. I really appreciated that. And then I also started this podcast that I'm running, and that kind of helped me find a outlet, because I did golf and I ran a lot, but I didn't find as much solace in that or purpose. So I started the podcast, and that helped. And then I get out, and I think me and my wife were excited at that point to find some level ground and get back to normal. But I didn't really know where to go from there. I'd been out of my MOS for so long, and it was just kind of a weird, you're in uncharted waters at that point.
And uncharted waters are very scary because one, you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you're going. But the worst part is nobody knows where you've been at, and that's the scary part, because you have all these accolades. I guess you could say the gumption or the audacity to be like, yeah, I was a drill sergeant, because it's frowned upon in our field, right? It's frowned upon. You don't really tout that. You don't tout your accolades, because if you do, you're kind of a dick, right? But it's hard to go in uncharted waters with your credentials. But at the same time, I'm going to go back to what you were saying. On top of that, it's even harder to realize that you're not the young man that you used to be, because you just said that you were in your late 20s. You got 3 hours of sleep, but when you were a drill sergeant, you could do that no problem. But now you're out of it, and now you have to learn to wind down, and that's the hardest part. You have to learn to wind down, and I think that's where we as a whole have a huge problem with adjusting, whether it's coming back from deployment, field exercise, whatever it is, but just being able to wind down, because we don't know how to wind down.
Yeah, I think whether you're on rotation, deployment, drill, recruiter, instructor, or a regular assignment, you develop a rhythm, you develop a lifestyle, you develop habits, and you got to break those immediately when you leave, for better or worse, and can be very, very challenging.
It can be difficult at times, but we have that network of people to support us. Talk about whatever it is that might be bothering us. But I want to go back to what you said about talking about the podcast, because when you were drilled, that's when you started doing the podcast. And obviously, you're not going to tell the privates about it, right? The privates might be looking at it now. What's up, privates? Fuck you.
That's right. That's right.
I'd be like, I saw a drill sergeant Lake out there. What the fuck?
It happens so often. Yeah.
But the name Benny and the Guests, the name for a podcast, or with anything that you want to come up with your new endeavors with, but coming up with a name can be sometimes serendipitous, right? Or it can be right in front of your eyes without you even knowing it. What was the process in coming up with the name for your podcast and your social media handle?
So when I first started, um, I listened to a lot of Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan, Matt and Shane's Secret podcast, all these ones that were kind of comedy, and then there were some that focused on lives. And I was like, well, I love talking to people. Like, I love hearing stories. And I was at a focal point of am I going to stay in or get out?
Mm-hmm.
And I made this podcast called Why We Serve with Benjamin Lake. That was
Okay.
their first name. And it was mainly I was just going to talk to military people about why they stayed in or got out. Because I thought in my mind I had a list of like 100 people to talk to. Well, that list dwindles down pretty quick when you start actually doing a podcast. And
Yeah, ask me about that.
yeah, it's quick. Um, and I realized I interviewed my brother, my dad, and some friends I had that weren't even military, and I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. I like the social aspect, I like hanging out. Maybe I can rebrand this a little bit and go with something different. So after I don't even know when I changed the name actually. I don't know. It had to be in the last year. I changed it to Benny and the Guest. Why that? Well, first of all, it's halfway dumb because no one in my life calls me Benny, which is so funny when I've interviewed.
Really?
No, yeah, everybody. I have had a couple people that I didn't know, and they get on the podcast and they call me Benny,
And
and
you're
I'm
like,
like,
oh,
I've never went by that. Yeah, it's always Ben, and or it's usually Benjamin if people are first meeting me or whatever. Um, I went with Benny and the Guests because I always liked classic rock and stuff like that, Elton John and
Elton John,
yeah, Benny
and
and Jet.
Jets.
Yeah. So when
I'm
I was
thinking Rats for some reason.
when yes, it works either way. Um, when I was in high school, though, we would go to field parties and stuff, and that song would come on. I remember a lot of people they would point at me or some shit when the song came
Because your
on.
name is Benjamin.
My name has been is a stupid thing, but it catches a little. I kind of like the look of it and stuff, so that's what I went with.
That's what you went with, inspired by an Elton John song,
Yeah,
Benny and the Jets. With your social media and your podcast, you've crafted a good following through your videos, through your podcast, but it's really hard to do both. And we were talking about this earlier, right? How do you find the right balance of podcasting and being in the army?
good question. Well, right now I'm in an aviation unit in an S3, so it's a desk job. For those that don't know, it's a little more workable hours to where you understand what's happening, and
Yeah,
you're not going to the field too often.
not an
That
S3.
yeah, yeah. Well, they're pushing all this stuff, but that's another topic. But I think number one, that's my first cue, right? I found a job, or I didn't find one, but I got pushed to a job that allows for more freedom in my timeline and understanding it. Number two, I have a wife and 4 kids, so I always put them first. I will always put them first. And so you got bedtimes. My wife has a pretty set sleep schedule she's on to deal with the kids when I'm at work. So I find after that is I can either go to bed, have a couple of beers, work on podcasts, do whatever. But it's kind of what the time you make of it, especially with weekends and stuff. And then third, I think me and you have talked about this before. Finding time for guests is half your problem, right? So you gotta
Yeah.
while you may have time to edit, while you may have time to make up reels or do merch or whatever, finding guests is over half the problem and getting that time with them. So that really is my 3 things that I look for. That is manage time, put family first, and work with the guests to find correct times. It is challenging with the Army. I'm not going to lie, but I'm finding a better rhythm with it as time
As
goes.
long as you find a better rhythm, especially with the army, because the army is taxing. The army requires so much of you. Well, the army and the military in general requires so much of you. And on that note of being in the military and being in the army, because the army and the military teaches you a lot of different skills that you didn't have before. One, starting a fire, actually learning how to be homeless, and a whole plethora of other.
Yes. That was all correct. What he said was all correct.
Of all, I mean, it really does. To be
Yes.
honest, if you really need to, if you are absolutely on your last fucking like foot of like humankind, if you had to be homeless, the army taught you how to build a fire, do all kinds of shit, survive off the wild. You're fine. You'll at least have a tent. You'll be fine.
Yes.
But but on top of that, but the army teaches you resiliency one way or another, whether it's training exercises or long training exercises, or losing a loved one or losing a team member. But what is one moment that really tested your will and made you rethink your choice to join?
Oh man. I have had 3 people commit suicide while I was in the Army. None of them were necessarily close to me. One was a friend. I could call him a friend. Two of them, not as close. All three of them, very different jobs. One was special operations, one was Seaburn, and one was, what do you call that? 42 Alpha, the
S1.
HR, yeah. Um, all three of them had very different deaths surrounding it, not deaths, they all had suicide, but the lifestyles they were leading. All of them had very different ones. And after the third one, which was it was right after my drill time, you really, really question what's going on with military, because I have four kids and I really want to see them grow up. And between, not to get too deep here, but between divorces, suicides, separations, or just toxic relationships,
You never know what's going on behind the curtains.
no. And I don't want that for myself. And more importantly, I don't want that for my family. So,
And that's why, and I've talked about this in other episodes, and that's why I think that as my time in the Army came to an end, I've seen a lot more leaders that are more engaged, more in tune. And shout out to First Sergeant Oburn. Shout out to, he just retired. He was one of the first leaders that really got to know us as people before he got to know us as soldiers, which was a huge thing because we had a shitty command, right? And I can say this now. I had a shitty command. Fuck the command before. But when he came in with such a bright spirit, I guess you could say, an optimistic point of view with the Army, right? And it was so apparent that he actually cared for every one of his soldiers that we would fucking do anything that he fucking said, no fucking question, right? And I've seen that a lot more and more, like soldiers now, and the soldiers that I've had before now that are still in the Army are saying like, yeah, my command is pushing me to go to the board, my command is pushing me to get promoted and shit like that. And I'm like, I didn't have that fucking network or that support when I was in the Army, so fucking take advantage of it. Now they see it, now new soldiers see that support as a nuisance.
yeah, this goes back to my drill time, man. I remember um, I could I could learn to influence the soldiers, not all of them, but a lot of them, if you gain trust first, right? If you
Yeah.
tell them, you know, this is me. I'm not putting on a facade. This is who I am, for better or for worse. And then they ask questions on military career advice. Give them the honest truth.
Yeah.
Tell people how it is, and for better or worse. And, like you said, I used to tell soldiers, hey, you're going to get to your unit as a private, go to the board. Like,
Mhm.
does it suck? Sure. But you know what? Guess what people aren't asking you to do every month after that? Go to the damn board for a year. They're going to be off your ass.
Yeah.
Volunteering for stuff, like just random stuff like that keeps people off your ass. And then you get to dictate your actions. And that escalates to you looking like a self starter. That escalates to he or she can handle more responsibility. Um, Stuff like that, I think it's incremental for leaders to tell people, and I really wish it were more prevalent. I feel like it's not, but I hope it's changing.
I've seen it changing from my last couple of months in the Army, from what people have told me. These new leaders that are coming in are wild because it's a hit or miss sometimes. But I have seen more leaders that have been pushing their soldiers to be better. But I've also seen the leaders that are just fucking pieces of shit. But with those, it's more apparent because you can tell that they're just there for the bullet. You can tell that they're just there for the next position, and it's so adamant. And if leaders, if you're listening to this, you can tell. I'm sorry if I got to be the one to tell you this, but you can tell when you're just there for the bullet or the next position. It's just fucking obvious. Like you can tell that nobody gives a that you can tell that you don't give a shit about anybody, and it's just fucking obvious. But while we're speaking on the Army, and while we're speaking on giving advice to new soldiers and stuff like that, hindsight in the Army's 2020, and in our career, we make some questionable decisions. Maybe going to drill sergeant school, maybe fucking being voluntold to go to drill sergeant school. But if you were with your younger, wide-eyed self, what would you tell them?
Oh my God. I would,
Let's
is
just
life,
say your
if I,
younger
if I
private
tell them,
self.
if I tell them stuff, is stuff going to change?
100%.
All right, dude, I would tell them not, I don't know. I wouldn't want him to change a thing. I would want I guess I'd want my younger self to take life more seriously at a younger age. I guess that'd be it. But I've learned to love the life I've had. I have
Hmm.
4 beautiful children. I have a beautiful, sexy wife, and I love you, Danielle. And
Shout out to Danielle.
yeah, I have a pretty solid relationship with my family. It hasn't always been perfect, but I wouldn't change it. And I have a handful of friends on one hand I can count that are there for me in the middle of the night. I have a growing podcast that's there, and I don't know, man. I just wish y y you can't you could tell that younger self everything, but like college, right? I don't know about you, but I went back to college. I finished my degree.
Mhm.
Um, it was so easy to do when I was in the army and I had kids and a wife, and I was like, I can't fail them. And
Because you got a
one, you get a purpose. It's for a bigger cause than just you yourself. I think everything is so much easier when you get older because you
Mhm.
understand the major aspects of it. I don't think my young
Mental stuff,
self,
at least. Physical stuff, it just
like,
gets harder.
well, yeah, physical stuff. I'm 87,
Yeah.
but my
Yeah.
like
Physically, I'm 67, and mentally, I'm 25.
I mean, yeah. Like think about it, like when you were, from 15 to 25. I don't know if your parents were involved heavily, but did they did any elder people tell you to do shit and you were just like, fuck you. I don't want to hear it.
Not really. When during that age, I think I mean, I only had one grandparent that was alive, and I didn't
Yeah.
really talk to any other old people in my parent. And I mean, I've talked about this in several episodes. I didn't tell my parents that I was going to the fucking military. I
Yeah.
I'll say this again. Told my mom that I was deployed or that I was deploying when I was already in Afghanistan. So like in Afghanistan, I called my mom and she rejected the number because it was unknown. And like after the seventh time that I called her, she's like, "Hello," and I was like, "Hey, mom," and she's like, "Who the fuck is this?" Because she's got 3 kids. I'm the fourth one, or
Yeah.
she's got 4 kids. I'm the fourth one, and she's like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "Hey, it's me." She's like, "Why are you calling me from a no number?" I was like, I'm in Afghanistan. I'm calling from the USO." She's like, "What the fuck?" So
Jesus.
like I didn't have old people telling me like, dance more, laugh harder and shit like that. But we're gonna get into that one in a quick second. But before we let you go, Benjamin, I just want to ask you a quick question called Go or No Go at Benny and the Guest Station. It's a quick game that I like to play, and this is all through the lens of being in the army, working through lunch. Go fuck yourself. That's the biggest scam. That is the biggest scam. Calling Canaans when not in a unit or unit formation or run.
No go.
Good.
Ugh.
The phrase orientate the map.
As a phrase?
Yeah, like
No
when you're
go.
doing land nav, you got to orientate
Right,
yourself
but
to the map.
are you using it as like a catchphrase or some bullshit?
No, no,
Oh, you're just talking about, do I orientate the map when I'm doing land nav?
no, like you're telling like somebody tells you, "Hey, Sarn Lake, I don't know where I'm at," and you're like, you got to orientate yourself to the map.
No go.
Good, because it's orient.
Ah, okay.
That's why wearing white socks and PT.
No go.
You
Fuck
can't
no.
trust them. The
Fuck no.
word, the word behoove.
No go.
Hell yeah. Tobacco or nicotine products in the field.
100% field SIGs don't count. Go. Yeah.
Ooh, that is I like that. The leg tuck.
Go.
Fuck
100%
yeah.
go.
I miss
Yes,
it.
get rid of the plank. Get rid of it.
Yeah, fuck the
I
plank,
hate it.
dude.
I hate it.
Fuck the plank. Cuffing or rolling your sleeves.
No go.
No, heating
No.
up your
Well, wait, wait,
MRE.
wait. Well, you can do the one, like 1 or 2 in. That's fine, but
That's
not
cuff.
okay. Cuffing's fine.
Rolling,
Rolling, no
no.
go. You look like an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. Buddy assisted bend and reach.
Go. 100%.
Hitting up your MRE.
Hitting up.
Heating up.
Oh, no, no go. No go.
Good. I'd eat it cold.
It's so much fun. It takes like 10 minutes to do the shit, and then start like, no, just
I'd
eat
just
that
rather
shit.
eat it cold.
Yes.
Wearing grunt style t-shirts out in public.
Ooh, that's hard. I would say no go now. I used to have some, I'll admit it. I had a buddy who gave me this giant stack of he gave me like 20 tees of grunt style, 9 line, all that shit. And they were comfy. They're very comfy shirts, but they're too moto for me.
They're too Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how I came up with that, but they're too drinking the Kool-Aid for me.
Well, they basically come with a web belt and wearing boots with jeans at this point. Like
Ye-
it's too much.
Fuck, I think that was another question, to be honest. On that note, standard issued boots.
You know what? I'll say go.
Really? Why is that?
Not everybody has the money, right, to get that new pair of boots. And number two, if you get the right socks, most of the boots work.
I respect it, but I'm still not going to trust you.
That's fine.
What about tucking your pants into your boots?
Never. Oh, you know what? That's another one I was an avid proponent of for till I went to drill sergeant school. And
Really?
someone taught me how to blouse my boots with boot blousers because they're like, dude, they're only $1. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I got them, and my life was forever changed. I kept wondering why my toes got so cold. I was like, oh, it's because I'm cutting off circulation. I'm an idiot. And then I would yell at the privates of like, you're fucking stupid. Blouse your boots the proper way. God damn it. You know, so avid proponent of no go on that.
So don't tuck your pants into your boots.
Yes. Yes.
Friday office beers.
I'm a go for that, but it don't happen no more. I wish it did.
In some units it does, in some
Oh
units
yeah,
it
I've
doesn't.
been in units it does, and it's awesome. But
Two more go or no goes. Service ribbon stickers on your rear windshield.
no go, big no go.
Yeah.
I would caveat that. I'll use caveat. I would caveat that with
I'm gonna
getting
piggyback on that.
yeah, getting the stupid Bronze Star veteran license plate. That type of
Okay.
shit. Like I don't and veteran plates I get because you or disabled vet I get because you get the handicap spot, but
Yeah.
you don't need to put that shit on your license.
You don't need to put the Bronze Star. You don't need to put. I mean, it's rough. I mean, for me, I'll take it a step further in the dudes wearing the whole "I served Afghanistan" hats.
Yeah, but what about the Vietnam guys?
I said Afghanistan, not Vietnam.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. What about in 20 years?
But that's the thing. Are we going to be
Brother, me
looking
and
at?
you. Me and you. What
I'm not
happens
going to
in
wear. I'm not going
I'm
to wear that shit.
you say that now.
Fuck
They
no.
probably didn't think they were gonna wear that when they were in Normandy or fucking Da Nang.
That is true.
I don't
That
know,
is
man.
very true.
I think that's a hard one to justify if you're not their age.
Fuck. Now I got to take that one off. Fuck. Fuck. Now I got to take that one off because the service ribbons on the windshield on the rear windshield is cringy for me.
Yes,
Because you always see those. You have the whole ERB or SRB on their fucking windshield and shit like
oh
that.
yeah.
And then you have like retired first sergeant. Nobody gives a fuck. I'm sorry. Nobody gives a fuck if you have it on your rear windshield. I'm still gonna cut you off in traffic.
You know what nobody cares about if they have on the back windshield? A little drill sergeant logo. Nobody cares.
I've never seen one of those.
There's not that many. That's
Yeah,
because it's the superior job. But to the point, nobody, or I've just seen it every now and then, and I'm like, for some reason, it doesn't look cringy because it's a good logo. It's
a
obviously
nice logo.
it's a very nice logo. Nobody cares about those though. But I mean, I can't stand the rack, and I can't stand the license plates. It's ridiculous.
My old commander has a license plate, or he had a license plate that said "Jumpin' Pogue," and that was probably the best fucking. And I probably swear to God, that's probably the best fucking. That's probably the best like army tag that I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah.
The very last one, or is getting any army tattoos or tabs tattooed on you.
Okay, tabs, hell no. That's a no go. I personally think everyone that's doing 10 years or more secretly has one because I know I have an army tattoo.
That was my follow up. Do you have an army tattoo?
So I have the flag
Okay.
over my arm. But like the flag is such a stereotypical one. There's so many. I think Tyler from Antihero, we talked about him. He has 82nd tattooed on his underarm because that was his deployment. Yeah, man. So like, I think some of them are cringy. I have a buddy that deployed. He has. Do you know what? I don't know if you guys have it like the MCO or MISCO. We have MISCO, but do you guys have like a Center of Excellence or anything?
I'm sure we do.
So like it's a garrison thing, right? That teaches like ours is Maneuver Support Center of Excellence, right? So it's what ALC, SLC, all the doctrine is produced under.
Yeah.
But he was under them technically, so he deployed with them to Africa. He has that tattoo on his right shoulder.
I mean, I always think army tattoos are cringy. I don't have any army tattoos or military tattoos,
Nice.
but Matt Tattersall, the guy that jumped with a fish in 2014,
Yeah.
I interviewed him and he has an army tattoo and he really turned my mind towards it because he said he has a tattoo of like the 82nd or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's cringy. And he's like, well, for me, it's I got it after I got out. And I was like, why is that? And he's like, because I spent so much time in the 82nd. I spent a good amount of my life in the 82nd. And for me, it was a good moment. It was home for a long time. And I was like, oh fuck.
That's
That is a
excellent.
good way to fucking put it. I never saw it that way.
Yeah, I mean it's hard because it's some people it's just a blip on their
Yeah.
life, but it's important.
Benjamin Lake, there is nothing left for me to ask you. I am so glad you came on the show. I am so glad you came on with us and talked to us. Tell us about your life. Tell us about Drill Sergeant School. And to plug Benny and the Guests, go listen to Benny and the Guests. He just had somebody from, where was it?
I just had Antihero on Tyler,
Anti-Hero.
um, and Nate Dressel from Boldly Patriotic podcast. He came on, and I got a lot more coming out. So check it
Hell
out.
yeah. So tell the people where they can find you, man.
You can find me at Instagram Benny and the Guest with a Z because someone took it, and then I'm on Instagram on YouTube, and then all the major streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and Google. If you just type in Benny and the Guest, it should pop up. And then we're getting videos out there, like I told you, Leo. It's coming out with videos and stuff, so you can see all that all across. IG is probably the best one to check it out at.
Hell yeah, dude. Go check out Benny and the Guests. He's got great episodes coming out. I only have one more question out for you before we head out, and that is what piece of advice would you give to all the whoas out there, young, wide-eyed, hopeful for the Army?
Two things would be I always heard it my first, when I was younger, and it led me to success, I think, was number one is always act like you've done the job before. Even if you've never done it, just have the confidence of learning the craft, willing to learn, and getting after it, not just someone telling you how to do things. And then be willing to participate. Don't be that person that's always, I don't want to do this. This is stupid, blah, blah, blah. Just have that willing attitude, and you're going to succeed, I think.
Fuck yeah, dude. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Benjamin, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm so glad to have you on. And we've been, like I said before, we've been working this for a good while now. But I'm so glad we finally were able to get you on and tell your perspective from the Army. Go listen to Benny and the Guests on Spotify, Google, Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, YouTube, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was wonderful.
Thank you again. Thank you for coming on. It's been a complete honor for me. Everybody, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to the show. If you liked it, send it to somebody. Show Benjamin out. Tell him that you saw Benjamin out here on the Wet Boots Podcast. My name is Leo from the Wet Boots Podcast, reminding you that sometimes you have no other option than to keep going in wet boots. We'll see you next time, everybody.